to Deep Sleep Stories. Thank you to everyone who's been listening. If these stories help you relax or fall asleep, a short review, comment, or sharing the podcast with someone who might benefit is a simple and meaningful way to support the show so that we may continue to offer it for free. Now, take a slow, gentle breath and let's begin tonight's story.
Welcome to Deep Sleep Stories. Tonight, we invite you to pause whatever busyness the day has held and gently step into a realm of soft tranquility. Take a moment to loosen your shoulders and let your eyelids drift a little lower. Feel your breath filling you up with calm on the inhale and releasing any lingering tension on the exhale. As your body grows heavier against your bed, allow yourself to imagine a hushed Caribbean cove beneath a star-swept sky. Listen for the gentle lapping of the waves and sense the warm glow of lanterns across the dark water. In a few moments, this serene pirate ship at anchor will become the drifting cradle of your dreams. Let the scene unfold before your mind's eye, and let your every breath guide you toward a deeper stillness. Now that you've taken those first few calming breaths and invited your senses to open wide, notice how your body feels more at ease. Notice the sense of expectancy that hovers at the edge of your thoughts, and allow that gentle anticipation to soften. You are safe. You are protected. You are allowed to let every muscle unwind. On your next inhale, picture the silken darkness of the night sky, sprinkled with stars that shimmer like tiny diamonds. On the exhale, feel yourself sinking just a bit further into your bed. There is no hurry. There is no urgency. Only a quiet invitation to float upon the currents of a tranquil story. This evening, you will drift into a world of low-lit sails, softly creaking wood, and a sea that seems as calm as still water in a hidden lagoon. Continue breathing slowly and let your thoughts meander gently, free of responsibility. You deserve this time, this peaceful space. Imagine now that your eyelids become heavier with each breath, weighing down in a comforting way. Feel your body gather warmth as though soft lantern light were shining over you, guiding you into a space of safety and rest. Soon, your mind will transition into the soothing narrative of a quiet Caribbean night, where a pirate ship rests at anchor, surrounded by gentle waters and a hush that invites only serenity. Let go of any final bits of tension in your body. Let your hands rest, your jaw unclench, and your heartbeat slow. The stage is set, and the gentle waves are waiting to cradle you. Take one final slow, deep breath, and give yourself permission to let the story carry you on a warm current of relaxation. There, off the softly curving shoreline of a lush Caribbean isle, a stately galleon swayed in place. Its tall masts rose against a night sky brushed with gauzy clouds, and its sails, now lowered for rest, hung like tired wings. Lanterns dotted the deck, each one a flicker of gold in the darkness, casting dancing shadows over the worn wood. The breeze that drifted across the cove carried the subtle perfume of tropical flowers and ocean salt. It whispered across the still waters, coaxing gentle ripples that lapped against the side of the ship. In the peaceful hush, it felt as though the entire world had paused to admire the moonlight. Near the bow, the figurehead, carved in the shape of a sea maiden, seemed almost alive by lantern glow. Her weathered face wore a timeless expression of quiet watchfulness, as if she were listening to the ocean's deep sigh. Now and then, a soft breeze caught her flowing wooden hair, creating a faint rustle that intertwined with the gentle creak of rope against wood. It was late, and the crew of the old pirate ship had mostly settled down. Throughout the day, they had gone about their usual tasks, checking the rigging, polishing their prized cutlasses, and whispering tales of rumored treasures. But when night fell like a warm, silken curtain, their adventurous spirit took on a gentler shade. The laughter died to murmurs, and the rowdier stories gave way to quieter recollections. By midnight, the watch on deck was minimal, and those assigned to stand guard did so languidly, lulled by the sound of waves. A short distance away from the ship, the island's palm-fringed shore rested in deep shadows under the moon's glow. Soft, swaying silhouettes of palm fronds drifted back and forth over the sand. Beneath these leaves, one might imagine small crabs wandering along the water's edge, leaving faint tracks that would vanish with the next tide. The jungle beyond was alive with the gentle hum of insects and the occasional call of a night bird. But none of these sounds reached the galleon with more than a muted hush. Instead, the air near the ship remained calm, broken only by the occasional groan of the hull shifting with the current. Somewhere below deck, in a warm glow cast by a few flickering lanterns, one of the ship's longtime crew members, an aging quartermaster with kind eyes, sat at a small wooden table. A gently steaming cup of tea rested between calloused hands. He inhaled the soothing aroma of leaves collected from an island not so far away. Carefully, he lifted the cup to his lips, savoring the quiet moment. He had seen many nights at sea, from tempestuous storms to starry wonders that made him feel small. But these nights in a peaceful cove, when the anchor was firmly set and the sails were folded neatly, always touched him deeply. It reminded him that beyond every horizon of adventure lies a moment of stillness, a pause that allows the spirit to recuperate. In the dim corridor nearby, a lantern hung from a low beam, swaying gently with the motion of the ship. Its glow revealed worn planks and hammered nails, each telling a story of storms weathered and ports visited. Hammocks crisscrossed the small sleeping quarters, each one holding a quietly breathing figure. Some of the younger pirates, still fueled by the day's energy, tossed and turned as they dreamed of future quests. Others, more seasoned and calm, slept like babies rocked by the world's largest cradle, lulled by the gentle lullaby of the ocean. Above decks, a single watchman stood near the helm, leaning lightly against the railing. His posture was relaxed, and he gazed out toward the horizon, where the moon emerged fully from behind a cloud, casting a silver path across the water. The watchman's gaze drifted to the island's shoreline, and though it appeared quiet, he thought he caught a glimpse of fireflies, or perhaps dancing embers from a small campfire. He couldn't be certain at this distance, and the question drifted away as quickly as it came. He was more compelled by the hypnotic glimmer of moonlight across the waves, a reflection that seemed to pulse with the heartbeat of the sea. Now and again, a small wave would nudge the ship, gently rocking it from side to side. The anchor chain would clink, and the sails would rustle softly in their furled positions. In these moments, the quiet seemed to magnify each sound into a soft, melodic note in an underwater orchestra. The hush of the night had its own music, the distant chirp of a lone cricket from the island, the barely audible sigh of the breeze weaving through the rigging, and the hushed whispers of water against the hull. It was in that intricate layering of subtle sounds that true peace seemed to dwell. Though they were pirates by trade, these men and women on board had hearts that beat with the rhythms of nature. Days spent under the blazing sun had carved calluses on their hands, but also had endowed them with a reverence for the sublime. On nights like these, they might pause to remember all the sunsets they had witnessed from the open sea, all the starlit skies they had slept beneath, and all the hidden coves where they had found refuge. This cove, with its warm Caribbean air and velvet darkness, seemed to wrap around them like a soft blanket. One deck below, an old sailmaker sat cross-legged on the floor, patiently mending a small tear. Even in the still of night, a task like this could be handled without haste, almost meditatively. The repetitive motion of threading the needle in and out, became a lullaby of its own. A nearby lantern revealed his focused expression, but that focus was gentle, relaxed. His eyelids drooped now and then, and he would pause, exhale slowly, and run his weathered fingers over the sail's sturdy fabric. In time, he'd lay the work aside, content to let the soothing night lull him into rest. After all, the tear was small, and the next day would offer more time for quiet tasks. There was no need to rush under such a serene sky. Each portion of the ship had its own hush. In the captain's quarters, a single candle flame danced in a small brass holder. The cabin was furnished with well-worn luxuries, a map table, a weathered armchair, a battered trunk that held the crew's most cherished possessions. The walls were adorned with relics from distant voyages, an ornate sword, a piece of driftwood carved by an island artisan, a tapestry from a far-off marketplace. The captain himself, a thoughtful soul with a love for the mysteries of the sea, slept in a large bunk, lulled by the rhythmic cadence of the waves. A small stack of parchment near his bedside hinted at half-finished writings, perhaps a letter to a loved one or the early draft of a new adventure. But for now, those thoughts waited, because on a night like this, dreams were far more inviting. Outside, the moon continued its graceful climb, illuminating clouds that drifted lazily across the sky. The stars, unhindered by any bright shore lights, twinkled with astonishing clarity. The sea below reflected these cosmic lights, creating a mirror image that made it difficult to distinguish where the sky ended and the water began. It was as though the ship floated in a vast tapestry of star-kissed stillness. Drifting overhead, a pair of seagulls soared in slow circles, occasionally letting out soft, muffled cries. Even they seemed subdued by the night's hush. The watchman, leaning against the railing, nodded in acknowledgement of their presence. He was sure these birds had made an art of trailing ships, trusting the scraps and generosity of seafarers. But they seldom ventured too close after dark, preferring to linger in the comfortable gloom, guided by the moon's gentle glow. Minutes dissolved into hours, yet time felt inconsequential. The grand ship was at rest, and it seemed that even the ocean's pulse had slowed to match the breath of each slumbering soul aboard. Lantern flames flickered in a gentle dance, painting fleeting shapes on the sails and deck planks. Now and then, a faint gust would cause them to gutter, sending ghost-like shadows to roam across barrels and coiled ropes. But the gust would pass, and the flames would steady, continuing their peaceful vigil. In the quiet depths of the cargo hold, where supplies were stacked in neat rows, barrels of fresh water and salted fish sat motionless. The presence of so many goods, carefully organized and ready for travel, spoke to the diligence of the crew. Yet all was still, as if these inanimate objects had been granted their own moment of repose. The warm, tropical air, though cooler in the hold, still carried that marine fragrance of brine and seaweed, a gentle reminder of the ocean that embraced the ship. Throughout the night, the gentle melody of the sea seemed to grow more pronounced. A small wave would lap against the hull, creating a soft, hollow sound that resonated through the planks. Ropes, snug and tight, would chime with the smallest creak as the ship lifted and fell in a rhythm older than any living person on board. Now and then, the watchman at the helm would shift his stance, scanning the horizon with a faint sense of duty. Yet the horizon promised nothing but calm waters and a star-filled sky. It was as though the sea itself had decided to stand guard, ensuring the ship's occupants could sleep without fear. Somewhere along the deck, a faint harp-like sound drifted out from a small wooden instrument. A young crew member, unable to sleep, had taken out a tiny lute and plucked a few notes in the darkness. The tune was barely more than a whisper, a lullaby born of half-remembered chords, but it blended seamlessly into the hush of the night, a tender thread woven into the tapestry of gentle ocean sounds. After a short while, even that soft playing ceased, and the musician tucked the instrument away, drawn by the call of slumber. In the stillness, the moon reached its zenith, high above the anchored galleon, bathing the deck in silver. The sails, though furled, caught the moonlight along their seams, shining faintly as though made of starlight. The wood of the ship glowed with a subdued luster, each plank telling a tale of journeys over uncharted waters. Far below, the sea creatures carried on their nightly routines, drifting in the warm currents and rising occasionally to the surface. Schools of tiny fish might have scattered around the anchor chain, while a lone sea turtle could be glimpsed for a moment if one watched closely enough. But for most, these details remained unseen, part of the hidden heartbeat of the Caribbean night. As the hours stretched toward the quiet middle of the night, the air itself took on a velvet softness. It no longer moved in noticeable currents, opting instead for a faint stirring that felt like a gentle caress. If the watchman breathed deeply enough, he might detect the aroma of sweet blossoms from the island's interior. Perhaps a jasmine or a wild orchid was releasing its nighttime fragrance. The presence of such scents felt almost like a secret gift bestowed by nature, something that came into fullness only when the world was silent enough to notice. In one corner of the deck, a small lantern glowed beside the coiled anchor ropes. Its light revealed a single coconut shell cup, half full of water, a quiet reminder that someone had paused there earlier, taking refreshment, gazing out over the sea before slipping into the hush below decks. Such small relics of life reflected the gentle pace of the night. The day's tasks were done, and now, like a protective mother, the darkness held the ship and her crew in a comforting embrace. Every so often, the anchor chain rattled softly, adjusting to the ship's gentle drift. Each metallic clink resonated across the hush like a quiet bell, reminding anyone still awake that they were secure in this calm harbor. The captain might stir in his sleep at that slight sound, assured that the anchor held firm, that his crew was safe, that the sea was friendly tonight. As the night wore on, subtle changes in the sky signaled that dawn was still far off, but inching closer. The moon began its slow descent, exchanging places with the promise of a new day somewhere beyond the horizon. Stars that had sparkled so brightly began to fade just a touch, as though they too were growing drowsy. The watchman yawned, stretching stiff muscles before returning to his relaxed pose at the helm. He knew that within a few hours the rest of the crew would stir, and morning routines of polishing, cleaning, and readying for possible travel would begin. But for now, the hush was theirs to savor. In the sleeping quarters below, the hammocks swayed gently, each occupant breathing in tandem with the soothing pitch and roll of the vessel. An occasional murmur or sigh escaped lips, lost in dreams of faraway shores, hidden treasures, or the simpler pleasures of a home-cooked meal. Yet no one stirred enough to wakefulness. The ship's gentle dance was far too lulling, the darkness too comforting for such intrusions to last. Dreamers drifted deeper, lulled by the ocean's lullaby, their bodies eased by the warmth of the tropical night. Meanwhile, the quartermaster, who had been sipping tea hours earlier, had dozed off at the little wooden table. His head rested on folded arms, the empty teacup still balanced neatly in front of him. A stray lock of silver hair caught the lantern's glow. He breathed slowly, the lines on his face softened by sleep, free from the cares and watchful caution that often accompanied him when the ship was underway. In dreams, he might revisit the journeys that led him to this moment, stormy nights and sun-scorched afternoons, encounters with friends and foes alike, and the quiet satisfaction of coming into safe harbors. If any faint worry lingered in his mind, it dissolved in the hush of the cove, leaving only the gentle weight of the night. High above, the sails were quiet, tied securely with thick ropes. Their cloth surfaces, patched and sturdy, whispered softly when touched by a passing breeze. These sails had carried the ship over countless miles of open ocean, propelled by trade winds and a thirst for freedom. Tonight, they found rest and stillness, a momentary respite from the demands of wind and wave. If they could speak, perhaps they would sing a lullaby of their own, a softly rippling tune about warm seas, starlit roots, and the hush that comes when the anchor drops and the world sighs in relief. As the night reached its darkest hours, the sense of being cocooned in tranquility enveloped every living and non-living thing. Each plank, each rope, each sleeping figure, each watchful eye seemed bound together by an unspoken accord to respect the peace that night had bestowed. Even the ocean seemed subdued, stirring gently, as if not to wake the ship from its slumber. At some point, the watchman walked the length of the deck, checking the lanterns, making sure the flame of each was turned down low, but not extinguished. The warm glow reminded him of the soft brilliance of fireflies that sometimes danced in the island groves. He imagined them flickering in unison, just out of sight, hidden by the darkness and the hush. The slightest pang of longing welled up in his chest, not for anything in particular, but for the strange beauty of nights like these, which always seemed too fleeting. Then, with a serene acceptance, he returned to his post, letting the emotion settle like a gentle wave washing over the sand. The night wore on in such a way that each passing moment seemed to blend seamlessly into the next. Time moved at the pace of drifting clouds. If there was anything to worry about, it did not announce itself. Instead, the quiet worked its magic, lulling the ship, the sea, and the crew into a shared dream of soft starlight, shimmering water, and stories yet untold. At last, a subtle shift in the eastern sky hinted at the promise of dawn. The deep blue of the night sky took on an almost imperceptible paleness. A single star pulsed briefly as it bid farewell to its nightly stage. But the morning was still a distant thought, and those who slumbered continued their peaceful rest, unconcerned with the arrival of a new day. The watchman, too, was nearing the end of his watch, and would soon be relieved by another, allowing him to find his own hammock and join the hush of the night. No matter how gently dawn might approach, the sense of quiet would remain for a while longer. The crew was in no rush. This cove offered them a sanctuary from the rigors of the open sea. The anchor was secure, the breeze was kind, and the night had woven its tapestry of rest with a patient hand. Even as the horizon began to lighten, the hush held, a pocket of calm in a world so often filled with noise. In the timeless space between deep night and early morning, that old pirate ship remained as serene as a sleeping giant. Its tall masts were silhouettes against the subtle glow of approaching dawn, and the deck seemed to shimmer under a faint starlight that still lingered. The entire vessel was a portrait of quiet contentment. The ocean, in turn, provided a gentle cradle, ensuring that no sudden wave or gust would disturb this long moment of tranquility. Indeed, the sea felt like an old friend, humming a soft lullaby in the background of the night. Eventually, that hush of pre-dawn quiet begins to weave itself even more softly around the entire scene. Now, breathe gently in and let the softness of the Caribbean night cradle you on the exhale. Feel the weight of your body as it settles deeper, as though you, too, are anchored in calm waters. The hush that surrounds the ship is now all around you, cozy and warm. Each moment holds you like a softly swaying hammock, each breath a gentle wave lapping at the hull. As the sky gradually shifts from midnight blue toward the faintest pale glow, the silent companionship of the stars begins to fade. They disappear one by one, retiring after their peaceful vigil. Yet your own sense of quiet comfort only grows stronger. The rocking of the ship, the murmuring waves, they are your lullaby, urging you to drift further into a realm of deep, restful sleep. There is no call to wake, no demand upon your time, only the sweet invitation of slumber beckoning you onward, inward. Let your thoughts come slower now, as though each one is carried on a soft current, floating gently past without a need to cling. Let your breathing become a gentle tide, in and out, with no rush at all. The story of the anchored pirate ship, with its lanterns glowing softly in the tropical darkness, eases into the background of your awareness. Its gentle hush remains, like a soothing presence that comforts each part of your being. If you feel any last bit of tension, picture it dissolving into the quiet water beneath the ship, carried away by a friendly wave. The night is so calm, so soothing. You are rocked by the waves of your own breath, and there is nothing left to do but rest. Let your muscles go loose. Allow your mind to turn soft and unfocused, and surrender to the sweetest form of quiet. In this moment, you are not simply a listener, you are a dreamer, drifting through peaceful waters under starlit skies. The hush of the ship's night watch wraps around you like a safe cocoon, whispering of kindness, warmth, and rest. With every slow breath, you sink further into your bed, letting the gentle lull of this night carry you into the depths of sleep. There is a profound stillness here, where you can rest without concern, where each gentle wave invites you to let go just a little more. Now, as the faintest light of dawn begins to brush the horizon, know that you can float here in this soft place as long as you wish. The ship will remain at anchor, resting in quiet harmony with the sea. You too are anchored in a soothing calm, free to wander in dreams, unhurried and utterly safe. Good night, dear traveler. Sleep well. May the hush of this Caribbean night guide you into the most peaceful slumber. May your dreams be gentle and your rest be deep. Let the slow rhythm of the waves hold you, Let the warm darkness embrace you, and let yourself drift off into a sweet and silent sleep.